Hey, good morning everybody. We're starting off a new week here, and as you can see, as predicted, the FC is on the cart. I've got it strapped down. I've got all the parts inside of it. We're not going to make it on this one. You know, just like that CJ3A project you guys picked up, and we never got to finish it. I know I got a lot of guys who were interested in seeing the FC come together, but it does not look like it's going to happen. And I'm just getting tired of waiting on getting paid and things like that, you know. Can't pay my mortgage with promises, so this is going out. It's taking up too valuable a spot in the shop. I had it on the lift, and that's where I need to have a vehicle to make some money with so I could keep everything afloat. And this is just a dead project. We're very early into it, and we've got money troubles already, and I kind of predicted that, but I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and true to form, most people don't know what it takes to put anything together and the time and the cost involved, and FCs are tricky bodies to get together, but I gave it my best shot. I made a lot of parts. I made a lot of progress on the passenger side, but I'm gonna stick it in the back barn, and I guess when I finally get paid up to date, they could come and pick it up and maybe find one of those elusive shops that works for lollipops or something, but I just can't do it. And I've been in a whole bunch of shops over the years, and I know there's a lot of shops that won't even take on a project like this. So when the day comes when I finally get completely aggravated with everybody and close the doors to everybody, and they wonder why, this is why. Too many false starts, and you know, I just can't put up with it too much anymore. So out she goes. Bare metal. I'm going to stick it in the back barn. I don't have doors on that yet, so it still will take the moist air. I'm sure it's going to get a coating of rust on it and stuff, but I just can't give up the space anymore, and this is not making any money, so you know, imagine everybody going to work and having to hound your boss to get paid. It just doesn't work, and I hate, you know, keep hounding people. You know, you gotta pay, but it never comes. So this is the only way to really make a statement. So another dead project, fellas. I've got to move some goodies out from that last axle job. This is going out, and I've got another project I'm building those axles and those transmission transfer case and stuff. Have to move that one onto the lift and see how that one goes. Hopefully that one will get finished. And this morning we're working on these F heads again. I got one stripped down. I think that was Friday. I had Matt helping me. Number 8 CJ2A Matt. You've seen him before if you've been following along with me. He is starting to cut his teeth, if you will, and learn the ropes on this F head, so that one day he can put his CJ2A number 8 L head together. So Matt is doing this morning. Gary's back, I believe, later in the day. He's been away for a few days, and we'll put him back on the camera. But for now, it's just me. And I'm cleaning the shop out. It's kind of cold out, so I'm going to go get the tractor started, get this FC out of here for good, and take you on the disassembly of this second engine. You can see I have the first engine laid out. This is just a little plywood and 2x4 thing I just threw together quick, just show you guys you know, how to keep your stuff organized. It's important to put everything where it goes so you can check it out and revisit it. That's the number 2 push rod. See the bend in that one? So we had some trouble You know, those are all 1, 2, 3, 4. There's number 3. Something went bad in this motor. There's the pistons. They got a little scuffing on them. There's the crank. Not too bad, but you could catch the grooves with your fingernail, so it's going to have to be turned. And not terrible. Block's going to go out. You know, with the other block, they'll both go out, and we'll magnaflux them and check for cracks and things like that. And we'll see how they turn out. And I've been digging out all my new old stock parts. I've got new old stock valve guides, and I think I've got some springs. I've got some new old stock connecting rods that I'm going to use on this. Somebody had changed these connecting rods. Some of them have 3/8 connecting rod bolts in them. Some have 7/16. But we'll get that all straightened out, and we'll balance the motor like I do on all of them. I think that's important. But yeah, it just gives you a little idea. I've got these little trays screwed down. I got my keepers in these. Just cut off soda cans. You could just throw something together real quick. You can buy plastic engine organizers, but they're flimsy. If you go to pick them up, they flop all your parts all over the place. This is nice and sturdy. You can pick this up and move it around. Valve guides are out. I'll show you how to put new ones in, get them to the right height, and we'll ream them. So there's a whole lot to do on these engines, and like I say, I'm going to make some room in here today by getting this FC out, and we'll move on with the engines. And by then those guys should be here, hopefully, and I'll take you a little further into the disassembly of an F-head. Okay, hang in there with me. I'll be back with you in just a little bit, and we'll start tearing this guy apart. Okay, here's the F-head with some of the accessories stripped off it, and we're going to go about this in regular tear down fashion. Oil pump's already removed from that because I snagged it for something else a while ago. But we'll start up top here and remove this rocker shaft assembly, and then head bolts, and then the head, and then we'll flip it over and continue from there. So I'll try and set up the best I can and show you the process along the way. Okay, Matt's going to zip out the head bolts now, and the head bolts are a one-time use item. I do not reuse them over again. I'll show you when we put the motor back together what I use for head bolts, but I don't use these again. Go for the one under the carburetor, Matt, so the people can see that come out.
These are little extensions.
You got the extension?
Got the extension right here.
I have seen guys ruin heads by forgetting this bolt, not taking their carburetor off. I have seen guys actually crack heads. There's the bolt that's under the carburetor. Make sure you take that one off, and then we're just going to zip the rest of them off, loosen those up. And like I say, quality of these bolts back then wasn't as good as what we have today. So, like I say, I'll show you those when we put it back together. So we'll zip those out, and I'll bring you back to show you the head come off.
I gotta blow my nose or something.
Alright, I got Matt here. He's going to zip off that rocker shaft there. We're just going to give 4 bolts on top. We're just going to hit it with the impact gun, zip that right off, and then put that over on the bench. Hit it, Matt. Okay, just those 4 nuts, and that guy will lift right off there. I jammed it up. There we go. Okay, we're going to get the bigger impact gun. We're going to hit these head bolts. Do not forget you have a bolt down underneath your carburetor. We'll pull out the push rods, and I'll number everything as we're going. We'll zip out the 15 head bolts, and then we will lift the head off. Okay, we got Skinny Matt over there. There's number 8 Matt. We're going to call him number 8 so you know he's CJ2A number 8 guy. He's going to try and get this head off. He's got a rubber mallet in his hand. I see he's going to go after it and do something. Let's see what he does. Go for it, Matt. Get that head off.
We'll get this over here.
Oh, this is an easy one. A couple taps and this is going to come right off.
There.
Look at that. Okay, he's making stuff happen. I'm going to clear the space for him.
Should be good.
Okay, now we got to see if Matt can lift it. Let's see what he does. Yeah, look at that. Right on the bench. Okay. Let me see what those cylinders. I can see some rust from here. Number 3 looks a little rusty. Looks like we got some crustiness on 2 and 3. I don't know what's going on there. But that should not look like that. It should look clean like number 4 and number 1. So we had a head gasket problem, it appears. And we got a rusty cylinder there and there. So we were leaking some coolant in there, it appears. Nothing too bad. We'll there, we got a little light on it. Yes, that has had some coolant leaking into it, as well as number 2. But no big deal. We'll go after all that stuff when the machine work happens. Hang on. Okay, we are going to flip the motor over at this point. We're going to pull the pan off. And we'll pop those pistons out and go after the underside of this. So let me get set up for that and I'll be right back with you. Okay, we're going to pull the front cover off. I was getting ahead of myself. Matt reeled me in, said it's time to get the front pulley and the front cover off, so we'll do that first, then we'll flip it. So hang in there with me, we'll get some tools out and get that pulley off. Okay, Matt's going to go for the front pulley. That nut is always 1 3/8. So we got 1 3/8 socket on the big Milwaukee gun. We're just going to zip that right off. And sometimes you get lucky and they come off with your hand, and sometimes you got to put a puller on there.
I think we'll need a puller on that one.
That one's going to need a puller. Let me get set up for that. We'll pull the front pulley off. Okay, I've got a steering wheel puller hooked into that front pulley. That's not an original front pulley. This one was driving something, had 4 tapped holes in the front. So I'm able just to get a regular steering wheel puller, put some bolts through there. Matt's going to spin that wrench, see how it comes off. And let's see what happens. Sometimes they could be a real bear. Sometimes they come off easy. This one may be giving us a little trouble. It's coming, Matt?
Yep.
So don't mess up your pulley by grabbing on the where the V-belts go with a puller. It just distort it all. Like I say, sometimes they come off by hand, sometimes you got to pull them, but be nice to it. That one's starting to wiggle. There it is. Okay, so no damage to the pulley. Seal surface look okay. Seal surface is a little beat up, but if we have to, we can put a speedy sleeve on that and get a good surface back. Now we're going to go for the front cover bolts and the bottom pan bolts and take that front cover off. Okay, Matt's going to pop that cover off now. How's the inside look? Pretty clean, it looks like.
Yeah, not too bad.
So now we will take the gears off, the oil jet, and the whole front of the motor. Give you a look in there. We got to pull the Woodruff key out of there to get the slinger off. And when you take your front cover off, that cam gear will be a fiber gear. Don't let that alarm you. They were never steel on steel. Unless you had a chain. Early 2A motors had chains and they had 2 steel gears, but everything else used that fiber gear. They hold up real good. And don't change these gears unless you absolutely have to. The original stuff is much better than any of the reproduction stuff. So if your gears are good, save them. And I'll show you how we get the key out of there and take those gears off with a puller. Okay, you got a little key in there that slinger can't come off of, and that's a Woodruff key, so it's a half moon key. Matt's going to tap on the back of it, and we're going to try and roll it right out of there. This one looks like it's mangled up. Somebody may have been in there before. Here it comes. Okay, now we've got something you can bite onto with some dikes there, and it should come peeling right out of there.
Yep.
Okay, show them the key, Matt. That's a oh, let me zero in on that. That's a Woodruff key, and don't beat the hell out of your crankshaft trying to get that out. So now that that's out, we can pull the slinger off, and we could get set up with the pullers for the gears. Okay. Okay, we're going to go after those 2 gears, and this is Snap-on puller set, part number CJ2002, and you see me use this on steering wheels, on carrier bearings. Now we're going to use it on the cam gear, and I'll show you how this works. Now I showed Matt on the last end how to set this up. We're going to leave him on his own and see how he sets it up, and I'll be right back with you as soon as he gets that set up on the cam gear. Okay, first step in pulling that cam gear is to zip that bolt out. Okay, now that's ready to be put. That's pressed on there, so those 2 holes are there and designed for you to get the puller in and pull that gear off without breaking it. Don't try and hammer that off; you'll bust the plastic. You have to get that off with a puller. Okay, we got the puller set up. As you can see, the little feet on the puller legs go out. They don't work good if you face them in. So you put that in there, and then we've got some nuts on there that'll spread those, keep it tight. Try and get that set up in there. Okay, there you can see Matt putting the puller in, and you kind of need 3 hands to do this, but he's going to tighten that nut right there.
Get our out pressure.
Give it some out pressure, and then put the pressure screw on there, and we'll have a nice secure setup. You want the wrench?
Yep.
We'll have a nice secure setup, and we won't damage that fiber gear, and that should come off there nice, and I'll show you when we get set up to pull it. Okay, puller's all set up. Matt's gonna go for this with just a regular open end wrench. We don't want to put an impact gun on this. We don't want to beat this up. We just want to pull this off nice and steady. So let's see how he does on this. Looks like it's moving. Nice slow pressure, and that'll come off without any trouble. You won't damage the teeth. You won't crack the gear. And that's the proper way to take that gear off. You just won't get it any other way, and you'll wind up busting it, and then you'll need a new gear. And like I say, the new stuff is not anywhere as nice as the original equipment as far as these gears go. And there it is. Okay, we're going to pull the crank gear now, and it has tapped holes in it, and Matt's going to set up different, same puller but in a different way. We've got washers on those bolts. We'll thread those in. We've got the pressure screw there. Make sure you got enough meat in there. We can thread the other one in a little further if you need to.
Well, just
We've got 2 different size bolts there for some reason. I don't know, they were in the kit, and this is what I usually use it for, but a bolt must have gotten misplaced at some point, so we've got to get these in even. And then we'll use a pressure screw and we'll pull that right off. Again, don't beat that gear up. Don't try and put a wedge behind it. Don't try and pull it off any other way. Thread some bolts in there, and everything will work out okay for you. 7/8. Okay, same thing. We'll do it with a hand wrench instead of the any kind of impact tool, and we'll pull that off carefully, and you can see it coming already. Okay, we almost got it there. And if there's any shims for your crankshaft or anything, they're going to be behind this gear, so don't lose any of that stuff. And that controls the crank end play. Sometimes there's shims, sometimes there's not. Don't be alarmed if there's no shims, and don't be alarmed if there are shims. Got any shims there, Matt?
let's see what we got here. We got another Woodruff key in here. And no shims.
Okay, we'll go and we'll take these keys out, and that'll be the whole front gear set. Okay, Matt's going to unscrew the oiler right now, and that oiler is what supplies oil to those gears. It has to be pointing in the right direction. I'm going to show you more on that when I install it, but early engines had a orifice in there of 70 thousandths, and they believed it was taking too much oil away from that #1 main bearing. So later engines, they switched over to a 45 thousandths hole opening. I always use the 45 thousandths. I don't believe 70 thousandths is too much on those early engines if the engine is in good shape. If it's in bad shape, it will take oil away from #1. So yeah, hold that one right there, Matt. This one here, it looks like somebody has ground that. It was very common to take a 70 thousandths, fill it up with braze or weld, and then re-drill it. This is an F-head, so it should always have a 45 thousandths hole opening. So I don't know, something got either machined by a gear or somebody was on that and did something to it. I don't know, but we'll talk more about that oiler in a future video when I'm putting it together. But just be aware that there were a couple different sizes, and you know, basically you got to decide for yourself what you want to do as far as an oiler. Like I say, I always use a 45 thousandths, but if you're happy with the 70, you know, stick with it. Okay, Matt, pull that that cover off the crank there, that plate. Any shims there?
Just not. Yep.
Yeah, okay, there's the shims hiding in there. Don't lose those. When you're putting your engine back together, start with the original shims, or, you know, 1 shim or 2 shims, however many shims were there. Start with that and check your end play, and just see how things go. But don't lose your shims. And so the crank is clean now. We're going to go after that cam retainer plate right there. And then we've got some bolts to take off, and the whole front plate will come off. And that's what your engine mounts to in the frame. So we're going to go for the cam retainer first, Matt. We'll go for that little plate that holds the cam in. And like I say, it's just another 3 bolts to take that front plate off.
For this guy?
Yeah, go for the retainer. Okay, that retainer right there that he's taking off now is what holds your cam in place. And then, like I say, we got 3 more bolts and the whole front plate comes off. Yeah, put that with the cam, no, cam gear right there. Okay, that frees up the plate, and a couple taps and that plate should come right off.
Oh, one more bolt.
Oh, Matt missed a bolt down there. We'll let him slide. It's his first time through.
Ooh.
Come on, Matt, you're killing us here.
There we go.
There we go. Now he's got it. There it is. There is your front plate. And don't screw those up from vehicle to vehicle. They're vehicle specific. The way the bends are, where your motor mount's attached to. Don't just grab one from any Jeep if yours is messed up and put another one on. You got to match what you have there. So that cleans up the front of the engine. And we're going to flip it now. And probably a bunch of junk's going to fall out. So we'll put something on the floor. And we'll start attacking the lower end of this engine.
I'm gonna wear some sunglasses while we're taking this apart.
Okay, there's the engine there. We got Gary's crazy, you remember Milwaukee Gary? There he is. There, look at this crazy light that he brought today. That thing will blind you. And I hope we're gonna get
Hollywood.
We're gonna get some better shots here. Gary's here now, so we're putting Gary on the camera. So any complaints from this point on in the video, you remember, direct them to Gary. That's just how we roll here. We throw anybody under the bus. So Matt is going to remove the oil pan, and we're putting Gary on the camera, and he's going to work the on-off into focus. So it's all him now. Give it hell, Matt.
Good.
Okay, we're pulling the pan now. Not too much sludge. That first engine we took apart had about an inch of sludge in the bottom. This one's not too bad. And this will go in our pile of parts that need to be cleaned and sandblasted. Here is our floating oil intake, which we're going to go for next. And that's just 2 bolts. And that's your oil pickup screen. Okay, where you at, Matt?
Alright, so
You on, Gary?
Yes.
you
Okay.
want to angle it that way to
How's it look?
definitely better than the other motor.
Fantastic. Okay, we are going to go for the rods next, and then we're going to push them down through. We didn't have too bad a ridge on here, so these will push down through. Hey, Matt, while we're at it, let's pull this side cover too. 1/2 inch. we've got 4 different main bolts, and we've got 2 different connecting rod bolts. So somebody's been in this engine, and looks like they grabbed some bolts from I don't know where for the mains.
How does that impact the engine?
It just lets me know somebody's been in here.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's
Well,
bad.
We've got a grade 8 bolt here, a nothing bolt there, another grade 8, and we've got 2 place bolts back here. And the connecting rod bolts, nuts, are weird. And then back here, they're completely different than the rest of them. So it just says that somebody's been in here, and I don't know why they would change the bolts, unless there was a failure of some sort. But we're going to find things out when we get in there. We'll see what the crank looks like. Okay, Matt's going to go for our number 1 rod. Is your side numbered, Matt?
Hard to see with that.
Hang
the
on.
sun over there.
Hang on. Can you see if it's numbered?
We have no numbers over here.
How about on number 4?
Nothing on this
Let me
side.
see this. Okay, I marked 4. Yeah, I could just see a 1 there. Your connecting rods are built in such a way where number 1 and 3 are interchangeable, and number 2 and 4 are interchangeable. The oil hole on the connecting rod goes away, facing away from the cam. So you couldn't take a number 4 and just twist it, then the oil hole would be in the wrong place. So 1 and 3 are the same, 2 and 4 are the same. Don't mix them up. Make sure they're numbered. Keep the cap in the right orientation. And Matt's going to pull that. I'll pull the cap, and then I'll knock that down through. We don't have a real ridge on the cylinder, so that should come right through. Rookie mistake there, Matt.
I know.
Now you got a nut in the engine.
That's right there.
Okay, we've got lock washers on here, and this is crazy. You don't ever put lock washers on your rods. Somebody was in here, and I don't know what they were thinking. There goes another one in the engine. We're going to throw that one in the engine. I don't know why they put lock washers on there other than lack of knowing what they're doing. Bearing is not in too bad a shape. Hold that, Matt. Now we're just going to take a hammer. And we're going to drive this. Matt's going to catch it on the bottom. We're going to carefully drive that through. You got it?
Yep.
Okay, put the thing back on. Number 1, no, number 1. Okay, nothing special about taking the connecting rods and pistons out. Just take them apart and bang them through. We're going to go through and get all the pistons out, and then we'll be right back with you. Okay, there's our rear bearing cap, and you can see that bolt. That's what you call a place bolt. They're good bolts, but you normally don't see them on main caps. We've got a nothing grade bolt. That looks like a grade 8. Hash marks on that one. And same thing here, some markings on that one, and just a no mark bolt there. I don't know what they were thinking when they were in here. You can see we've got some scuffing on the crank on where the rods were. We're going to go for the mains now and pull this crank out and see what it looks like. But like I say, when somebody's been in here and you don't know what they've done, you got to start from ground zero again. So we'll have to get some new bolts for the main caps. We'll get some high quality bolts, and I'll show you all about the bolts I use when I put it together. But we're going to go after these mains now and pull the crank out.
Good.
Okay, we've got the bolts loosened up here. Again, we can see that somebody's been in here. This is not the place for a lock washer. They never had lock washers in there. That's not where you put a lock washer. I'm not sure what was going on or why somebody would do this. There's another lock washer there. And then in the back, I guess they decided they didn't need lock washers and they put these place bolts in there. I really don't know what they were thinking when they were doing this.
So you would just typically torque it down without a washer, or would you put locking?
There'd be no washer on there. There would be a high quality lube on here, and that would be torqued down properly with lube on it. And there's a whole lot to learn about how to torque bolts down with and without the proper lube, and you could do some reading up on that. So right now I'm going to pull these caps. The bearings don't look terrible. This back one can be a little bit of a bear because it's got these rubber, those little rubber packings in there. So I'll work on that and I'll be right back with you, and I'll pull the crank out. Okay, I'm on this rear cap right now. I just got a bar. If you just wiggle that around a little bit, you can usually pick up your packings. And that'll help your cap come out. There's the cap, and bearing looks kind of okay in there. So crank's ready to come out now. We're going to lift it out in just a second. Okay, crank's ready to come out. It's done.